your two hosts, Carlos and Dylan.
What's up, guys? How you doing today? Welcome back, Dylan. How you doing, Allie? Thank you very much for jumping on the show.
I'm good. You doing all right?
Fine, thank you. So what's up, guys? What are your expectations for this week's? I consider it a massacre. I'm even afraid to watch it as a Gator alum. I'm not expecting much from the defense, yes. DJ kind of scares me because we've spoken about it, that he's not himself yet.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Allie.
Sure, I will go first. So I don't have high expectations. Last week was definitely a gut punch. But this team has the ability to turn it around. I think whether they do or not is obviously a different story, but Florida has the athletes to hang with Miami. Miami has recruited at a very similar clip to Florida. Their talent profile looks very similar. UF has the ability to hang with Miami. And that's why I think, coaching is going to be the separator between the two. I'm really interested to see how our trenches do because I have been very impressed with Miami's through 3 games, less so with Florida's, even though Florida's were pretty darn highly rated going into the season. So again, the ability to hang is there. Whether or not they will, potentially a different story. But, I think maybe I don't even know if cautiously optimistic is the right term for what I am. Maybe hiding behind my hands and peeking through and hoping for the best would be better. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. I mean, I feel like a broken record because I come on here every week and I say Florida's talented enough to right the ship. Florida's talented enough. And, obviously it hasn't worked out for us. We're 1-2. That being said, I'm cautiously optimistic. Like you said, I feel like, we have the talent. And if we get a different Lagway this week than we got last week, I mean, we were in that game against LSU the whole time. If Lagway comes out here and does what we expect him to do and what we saw last year, I think this could be, a huge shock to some people. I think a lot of people are counting us out as untalented just because of our record when that's not truly the case. Mm-hmm. So, I'm excited. I will be watching the game. I know a lot of people are done watching the Gators. I'm sticking through. I'm excited for another game. You only get 12 of them in a season,
right.
so you got to watch. And I'm feeling like we could get some upsets here if everything goes right for Florida.
It's like Ali said on her show. I'm going to be wearing the orange and blue glasses all season long.
Yeah, hopefully we can pull it out.
Do you guys believe that DJ bulking up has slowed him down?
I do. I've talked to Shane Matthews about it. I've talked to Chris Doring about it. I've talked to Chris Leak about it. And all of those guys who, I think are far more knowledgeable than I am, think that his size may have something to do with his lack of mobility right now. And, and I think that happens twofold. He didn't get to practice a whole lot this summer, and he spent a lot of time in the weight room because he couldn't practice. And I think the combination of those two things maybe wasn't great for him. So at the very least, it's not doing him any favors.
Yeah, I agree there. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, how missing a lot of that offseason has really obviously shown that that's been a huge problem for him. I think, you turn on his tape from high school and he's a lot more mobile. I mean, he's had some nice runs this year. I mean, he's made some plays with his feet, but not necessarily what you saw in high school and not necessarily what we kind of expected. Even you go back to Miami last year, his first game, he comes out there and he has I think it was a 15-yard run. He almost took it to the house. He looked a lot more mobile than he does this year. So, I mean, you got to expect that, that's something they're probably going to work on in the offseason next year. I mean, I don't think you can really, do too much about that during the season. You got a lot of other things to worry about, but it definitely probably is affecting him, at least in a slight way.
Is Billy's job on the line officially if we get blown out?
I think so. I mean, I don't think the standard from the university has changed. I think from what I have been told, 8 wins was the bar. And at this moment, 8 wins is still mathematically possible. So I don't think that they let go of him until it's no longer mathematically possible. But I do think that he knows and they know that, this start wasn't doing him any favors to hitting that 8-game number.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about it a little on Tuesday, Carlos, me and you, and we talked about, he has to be in these games. If it's a blowout, I think that is really, might be the final straw. I don't know, how quickly we do get the firing, but if you get blown out against an in-state rival, I mean, you have the excuse that they're a really good team, but the problem is you're a really good team. You have all the talent. I think, honestly, his talent actually is kind of, bringing him down a little bit, because he could say, oh, we just don't have my guys yet. Oh, we don't have the talent to compete against these teams. But you do. Everyone knows that you have the talent to go in there and make this a game, make LSU a game, beat USF, which, everyone expected us to do. So I think, with how much talent he has and how everyone kind of can see that we're talented, if you go out there and you get blown out by Miami, I don't think there's, necessarily a road back, unless something magical happens.
I agree. Why doesn't he try to run, especially that DJ's a little bit slower now because we believe he bulked up. But in my opinion, he should try to run RPOs to kind of calm him down a little bit and give him options.
I mean, I think he did LSU. He just made the wrong read there each time it happened. But, the play calling has been somewhat baffling the entire way through. And sometimes I think they give him an option and he picks the wrong one, where maybe Billy needs to say, you're either running it or you're passing it here, and not allow him the choice if he's continually not picking what makes sense for the moment. He looks like he needs more coaching overall. So maybe they've given him too much rope at this point, and they need to dial it back a little bit and make it slightly more pedestrian and give him less leeway in it.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to, I think it was after week 1 even, Billy Napier mentioned that, some of the screenplays that didn't end up working might have been the quarterback decision-making more than the play itself. And, some of them were RPOs, stuff like that. And, I think it's super tough for, anyone who's not on the sidelines to know when a play fails because of Coach Napier, when a plays because of the quarterback. So it's really hard. But I do believe that they run these plays. I just think that, for whatever reason it's been, they're not working.
Do you guys believe Billy can fix DJ? That's a question I've seen all over X.
I wouldn't bet money on it if I was a gambling person. I don't know that I think he has a qualified quarterback coach on staff. O'Hara is. First of all, they do a lot of things by committee, which I think muddies the water everywhere. Mm-hmm. I wish that there was, very clear lines of who's responsible for what. And obviously everything goes top down. Billy is ultimately responsible for everything. But I think that some of these problems stem from not getting an offensive coordinator. And, 2 years ago, when it was first called for, we should have got an offensive coordinator. He didn't. Last year, should have got an offensive coordinator and did it. And the fact that he sounds so indignant when asked about it in press conferences, like, how dare anybody even suggest an offensive coordinator, is mind-blowing to me. Florida's offense has never crossed the 50 mark statistically, which is crazy for somebody who prides themselves on being, an offensive guru. But the other thing is, even if he was great, even if he was a elite offensive coordinator, I think that the head coach has to wear too many hats, especially in this NIL era, to really successfully do both outside of some very specific situations. And I think you can look at the improvement in Florida State when they got an offensive coordinator. Look at the improvement in Ohio State when they got an offensive coordinator. And I think you could argue that Day and Norvell are better offensive coordinators than Billy was, but they understood the importance of handing off a hat, even if it was a hat that they cared about, that they loved, because they had other hats they needed to put on. And so I don't, Billy in a bubble maybe would be a fine offensive coordinator if that was his role entirely. But he's got about 12 roles. He's not doing any of them particularly well, and it's harmful to the team. And, for a guy that comes across as so humble in his press conferences and interviews. It is the absolute most narcissistic thing I've ever heard in my life to be unwilling to try something different and see if it helps. Like, do you want to be an offensive coordinator or do you want to be a head coach? Because you're about to have to pick, like, now.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look back at, Napier, I wrote an article when I predicted DJ Lagway's stat lines. He's never had a starting quarterback throw for over 3,000 yards in his tenure at Louisiana or at Florida. I mean, Graham Mertz was really close if Graham Mertz didn't get injured that last game in, I think it was 2023, 2022. He reaches that, but, still the track record for quarterbacks under Billy Napier has not been, outstanding. He's always been more of that establish the run kind of guy. So, it's tough to be able to say I trust, a kid who is uber talented and has come out here and look like, quite honestly, look like he regressed. It's hard to say, I trust what's going on in the coaching staff. I think, it's not necessarily all on Napier. I think Lagway, himself has had some things that he, needs to figure out. But I don't know. That's another. You mentioned how long do you let Napier stay? Like if he loses to Miami, what happens? I think that's another thing is you paid a lot of money for this quarterback. Mm-hmm. You put a lot of your chips into this quarterback. If he's like obviously regressing or seeming like he's regressing, I think that gives you just adds another coal to the fire. And we need to fire Billy Napier because, we can't let this go on where your quarterback who, is kind of the whole hope of the university right now. If he keeps getting worse, I don't think you let that continue.
Should Jaden Bob be the featured back and stop this swapping in and out? He gets 10 plays, then he disappears for 2.5 quarters. Because Jaden Bob's officially been the horse, but hasn't gotten enough reps.
So I think I don't think Jacoby Jackson is bad at all, and I don't necessarily disagree with the concept of rotating your backs and keeping them healthy. But I hate the way they've used Boss. So he had those his carries against LSU, but he also had, I want to say it was 7 pass attempts, but they all essentially were little pitches in the back. And so my husband Eric, he's a former player. He got so frustrated on Sunday that he watched the entire game over and wrote down the air yards per attempt and air yards per completion for Florida. And what he found is that essentially 15 of our attempts were from behind the line of scrimmage and 25 were under 5 yards. And if you factor in all of those little pitches, which are runs in theory, right? Florida is actually an 80% run heavy team, which is not how we're presented. We're presented as a very balanced offense. We're not. We're just doing it stupidly. I wish we just gave Jaden Baugh the ball and dared somebody to stop him over and over again. This guy is a bowling ball. He is incredibly talented. I think that he's the best running back in the SEC and one of the top in the country. And I would love for them to just ride that instead of doing all of these little tricky plays. Like they do too much. Keep it simple and make them stop him.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I've personally been on the kind of other side of, I see on Twitter, everyone saying, why is Jaden Baugh not getting the ball more? I think that we've used him quite a lot, actually, more than I was expecting. I thought it was going to be more of a, maybe a 60-40, and he's been the main guy. It's just the fact of when they're using him, how they're using him. A lot of the times it feels like they'll use him on one drive and he'll be the whole drive and he'll kill it. We'll move down the field. He'll get a bunch of, huge runs, and then you forget about him for a half. And that's where it gets a little disappointing because I don't think necessarily he's been off the field more than he should. You want to keep him a little fresh, but they've used him, for the majority of the carries, the majority of the plays. It's just more about, like Ali mentioned, getting him the ball without it being kind of like, oh, here's a screen and then, that's it. That's all we're going to give him the ball in or, stuff like that. I think it's more about how they use him, more about than like when they use him because, if you look at it, he's really ran the ball a lot more than Jacoby Jackson. I don't know the numbers, by that, but Jacoby Jackson hasn't been on the field as much as people like to make it out to seem. It's more of just, they gotta find ways to make him successful without it being like, here, Jaden Ball, go make 6 people miss before you even touch the line of scrimmage. You know, they gotta give him better position to succeed without him having to just, you know, use his insane talent to do so.
No offense to Jacoby, but I feel like we go backwards when he's running the ball.
I mean, I think there's a distinction that Baugh is better. I think that he is. And I almost feel like sometimes Napier gets in his head and is like, okay, we were able to run that successfully. So check, we can run the ball. Now let's see if we can be 2-dimensional. Let's see what we can do passing the ball instead of this is working. Let's ride it till it's not. It's like, okay, that's working for sure. Let's see if we can get something else working too, though. And I don't know that I agree with that strategy.
Yeah. And I kind of go back to that Jacoby statement. I feel like that's more of a example of how good Jaden Baugh is. Personally, I think, you know, Jaden Baugh keeps making these plays. If you watch the tape, most of his big plays have been he's made 6 people miss and he goes, you know, for 20 yards instead of, you know, he breaks through a huge hole. I think, you know, Jaden Baugh makes everything look so good that when a running back who's still talented, I'm not taking anything away from Jacoby Jackson, but when a running back who's not, you know, one of the best in the nation comes in, you kind of think, oh, like, you know, he's way worse. But I think he kind of just exposes some of the struggles that Florida's offensive line and play calling, you know, has been hidden by Jaden Baugh.
I agree with you, Dylan. But you know me, I've said it at the beginning when we first started this. I said if he's a featured back, he can easily hit 1,500 yards. And he's not getting enough, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I mean running the ball.
I mean, you know, it's especially tough when he's such a good running back to even try to take him off the field, you know. So I see where you're coming from. I think he does have, you know, the talent to be a workhorse. I think, you know, 1,500, you probably need a different offense at this point, judging off of Napier's, you know, success.
Another question, our wide receiver room is so deep. Why isn't he spreading the ball? Because you've got wide receivers standing on the sidelines. If I'm not mistaken, it was one of them made 1 or 2 catches last game and then disappeared. Yeah. And then disappeared.
I mean, he loves tight ends. I don't understand the repeated fascination with tight ends when you have such depth and talent in your wide receiver room. I despise the way they use Trey Wilson. I saw somebody the other day that's like, Trey Wilson had 100 yards, 80 yards sideline to sideline and 20 yards north-south. And like, that's what it feels like. They don't put him in a position to be successful. He has the ability to make plays. Mizell has the ability to make plays. VB3 is absolutely electric. When we get Dallas back, like there just is so much talent. Sturdivant is another one. Like there's just so much talent in that wide receiver room that it very much feels that we are wasting it. And you know, we have a decent offensive line. I don't know that I think they've lived up to the hype in the offseason, but they've still been decent. And we have somebody that should be a stud quarterback. Like none of this makes sense, but at the end of the day, it's year 4. So it has to fall on your coaching staff.
Yeah, I think this is one of the more disappointing parts to me about Florida Gators football. You know, I was huge on Florida's wide receiver room. I thought J. Michael Sturdivant was the perfect wide receiver transfer. I thought he was the perfect replacement for Elijah Badger. Obviously, Eugene Wilson, super, you know, explosive. Vernell Brown was a surprise to me. I didn't think Vernell Brown would be as, you know, good as he's been. I thought he was a very good player, but he's been way better than I expected. And yet we're talking about how disappointing they've been. It's really tough because, you know, I see a lot of people now. It kind of seems like a lot of people are going against our wide receivers. And, you know, some people I saw on Twitter were saying J. Michael Sturdivant was, you know, we lied about J. Michael Sturdivant. He's not as good as we said. I disagree. I think J. Michael Sturdivant has been good. Every time, you know, we've targeted him, every time you turn on the tape, he's open. It's just about, you know, getting him the ball. I think we had the same problem with Elijah Badger last year at the start of the year. You know, He wasn't being used as much as he should have been. And, you know, we saw he turned it around at the end of the season. But to go about Aiden Mizell, I was actually, you know, I thought a lot of people had the right to be mad about him not playing as much. But he did mention yesterday at the press conference, he said he was dealing with an injury. which I did not know about. He said he was a little banged up, so that's why he didn't play as much. But that being said, it's still, majorly disappointing that, you look at our wide receiver stats right now. Vernell Brown, I believe, is our leader, but none of them have, a very good stat line. Yeah, and they're all extremely talented. I mean, you go 1 through 5. I think we have 5 wide receivers that are good enough to start in the SEC, and yet their stats aren't really, showing it right now.
Ali, I'm going to put you on the hot seat because Dylan's answered this question on his own, and I was there when this coach was in Gainesville. Is Billy Ron Zook 2.0?
No, he's way worse than Ron Zook. Ron Zook is sitting in Ocala at his lake house going, what the hell? I won 7 games. I could think about Ron Zook beat LSU on the road when they were the number 1 team in the country the year he was fired.
Yes.
I was in college. I held a sign in the stands that said, win or lose, we all booze. Like, we literally went there thinking we were going to get our butts kicked, and they showed up. They showed out. That was the one loss LSU had that season. They won the title. They went to Tallahassee. It was the day that they were dedicating the field to Bobby Bowden, and Ron Zook beat Florida State. They carried him off on their shoulders. Like, I do honestly think there's a decent chance Florida would have eventually gotten a championship with Ron Zook. That's how talented it was. He had the number 1 team in the country, recruiting wise, one of his 3 years. I mean, no, Ron Zook is so much better than Billy Napier.
I was there. That's why I asked you the question. I was a student when, I guess we were students. We never met. Do you think in terms of the way they speak, do they sound similar though? Because
I think that they might be similar in the fact that I always had the belief that Ron Zook kind of had his hand in everything and probably really should have just focused on his defense, let his offensive coordinator run his offense, and, maybe stepped away a little bit. And I do think they're similar in that aspect. I think that it's got to be really difficult to be a head coach and just trust that your rooms are doing what they're supposed to do and just oversee from the top. And I do think the meddling is what gets coaches in trouble sometimes. Like, focus on what you're good at, be the CEO of the team, handle that, and trust that your hires are doing their job. So I think they're similar in that aspect. I mean, I guess they both have a little Southern draw there. But I've always been a Zook fan. I love Coach Zook. I think he's a really good coach. I think he was in over his head as the head coach at Florida. So I guess that's another similarity he has with Billy Napier. And they're both player coaches. Florida's players were pissed when Zook was fired. I can remember, I thought Eric was going to transfer. We were dating, and Urban Meyer, to his credit, was able to win that locker room over incredibly fast. But there's a story about Channing Crowder just cursing Jeremy Foley out when they told him about the fire, and it was handled really poorly. It came out on the ticker at ESPN before they got a text calling for a team meeting, and so that was all handled really poorly. But they loved him. And I do think these players love Napier. And that's why they were able to turn the thing around last season. They circled the wagons. They pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, and they won some games. And I think that's what gave us all so much hope this season, is that we thought, okay, they turned the corner. Yep. And we were going to see a continuation of that. But instead, it feels like we hit rewind on the movie, and now we're playing the beginning of last season again. And that's the frustrating part.
Okay, guys. If Billy gets fired, give me a number. How many players are going to leave?
A lot. Timing will matter, and how quickly they've got a plan in place will matter. You can enter the portal you have that 30-day window when your coach is fired.
That's why I said the question, because I'm afraid of all that stuff now.
And I do think that's scary, but they can't play till next season anyway. So if you can. I don't think it happens until 8 wins is mathematically impossible. And if you can, in the meantime, which this would give Strickland credit, and I probably is undue, but you create a plan beforehand so that you're able to move quickly. Like, think about how many names and how long it dragged out when we didn't have a coach to replace Mullen. We need to avoid that. The quicker you can make the fire and then the hire, the more likely you are to hang on to as much of your roster as possible. And, if the hire is Lane Kiffin, which I would personally love for that to be, you've got to think that these offensive players would be chomping at the bit to play for him. Like, they somehow got convinced to come play for Napier's offense. You would think they would feel like they won the lottery if they got to play for Lane Kiffin's offense.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has a little to do with, the whole situation of when he gets fired, what's going on. But I might be a little delusional, I probably am. But I like to believe, that it won't be, the whole roster. I think if you look at how Florida's roster is built, I mean, there's obvious ones that I think would stay. Vernell Brown has been a Gator his whole life. I don't think, there's any worry about him leaving. I think, yeah, there's legacies here that you're pretty confident in stay. And to Billy Napier's credit, and I mean, I guess it's not really to his credit, more of their parents' credit. But a lot of our best players are young legacies. I think, those two right there, those are huge pillars that you want to keep and you feel pretty confident in. I think a big one that everyone likes to talk about is DJ Lagway. Maybe I'm delusional. I think he stays. I think, the kid loves Florida. I think, he's not the type of guy that would just leave unless, obviously, like we mentioned, there's no plan in place. So, I mean, there's definitely going to be kids that leave, but, it all depends. If you have a good plan, like Ali mentioned, if it's Lane Kiffin and the players know it's Lane Kiffin, I think you see a lot of them stay. So that it will just all depend on, we also haven't seen the NIL version of this yet for Florida. Florida's paying these players a lot of money. So there can always be that where, a Dallas Wilson, maybe before you're not expecting him to stay, but you never know. The offer might be on the table for him that he'll wait it out and see, what we get if he likes Lane Kiffin or whoever it is. And, you might have a better chance of keeping him then.
Do you guys have any updates? It was one of your coworkers, Dylan, that wrote this article. There's a rumor we're going after the cornerback from Virginia Tech. I can't think of his name right now.
Love
that
it.
was me, Carlos. I wrote that one.
Oh, you wrote that one?
Yeah.
I didn't read this to see who it was.
Yeah.
With the chances of Billy being fired, what's the chance he comes and becomes a Gator?
Yeah, I put that in my article. I don't really think that the interest is, that strong. I mean, I haven't talked to the kid personally. I haven't talked to his agent or anything like that. But it's hard to believe that a kid who just left his program because they fired their head coach is looking at Florida and is like, yeah, I want to go to the coach that's 1-2 and extremely on the hot seat right now. I think, in the NIL era, obviously he's going to connect with every school that's talking to him and wants him. And I think, shout out to Florida's, player retention staff or player, addition staff, because they're still working like it's business as usual in Gainesville. They're still doing their due diligence and doing their job. That being said, I don't see a real possibility unless he waits a really long time, which I also mentioned he has plenty of time to make a decision. He can't play this year. He'll have to play next year. So, I wouldn't be holding my breath. I also don't think, he's necessarily the cream of the crop. I mean, he's really the only, one. He started at Virginia Tech. I don't think the stats were good enough where it's like, oh, this is a do or die addition for Florida. But yeah, on if I see him coming here, that's going to be a wait and see. I probably doubt it right now, I'd say.
Is there any way we can keep Ron Roberts if Billy gets fired?
That'll be up to the next head coach. I am vehemently against ever telling a head coach he has to retain specific people on his staff. Even if I would love specific people retained, I think you've got to be able to build the program how you want to build it, and go from there. You need to make sure you have guys that are on your team, so to speak, when you become a head coach. But I would assume Lane will at least look at him. He's done if it's Lane, obviously, or whoever will look at him. If it happens, because he's been very successful, and there's probably a great chance you retain some of this defense if he is retained.
That's why I threw it out there, because I want him to stay. I like his defense.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, like Ali mentioned, you don't want to say, oh, you have to keep him, because that just will cause problems. I mean, I'm a Giants fan, and watching Dable and Wink Martindale beef for a year was not fun. So you want to have a relationship there first before you're forcing anyone to keep anyone. But I mean, Ron Roberts has earned his job here. He's done a phenomenal job. I think the defense has been one of the best in the nation. I mean, we'll find out more on against Miami, and you want to see more pressure, but they've been really good. So I think there's a couple guys on the staff that you would like to stay. But that, like Ali said, it all depends on the next guy coming in and who he wants here.
All right, guys, now we're going to start the pick'ems. This is the fun part I like to do. Texas Tech at Utah. Who wants to go first?
Am I picking the score or am I picking win-loss or what?
Win-loss. Who wins?
I'm going to go Texas Tech.
Okay, I'm going the opposite. I'm going Utah here. I like Texas Tech a lot, but I've mentioned it before on shows. Utah, they got something brewing there. They're a really good team, Devon Dampier, so I'll go Utah here.
I'll take Texas Tech. I'll stick with Allie on that one. I think it's going to be pretty close, but I think Texas Tech pulls it out. Arkansas at Memphis.
I think Arkansas. I've actually been pretty impressed with them.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arkansas is, I don't think they're going to do too well come SEC play, but they're a pretty solid squad. Respect for Memphis. They've had a solid start to the year, but I'm going Arkansas.
Maryland at Wisconsin.
I think I'm going to go Wisconsin.
This one's tough.
Yeah, it is.
I saw that. I think Wisconsin's favored by like 2.5 or something like that. Maryland's 3-0. Their freshman quarterback Malik Washington is balling out. So I don't like Wisconsin anymore because I was super high on them, and then they lost Billy Edwards at the start of the year, and that made me sad. So I'll go Maryland here.
Dylan, Wisconsin's giving 9.5.
9.5. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Syracuse at Clemson.
Oh, Dabo's got to hope that it's him. I'm going to say Clemson.
Yeah, this one, I mean, Syracuse, I had more high hopes for. They didn't look very good against UConn. They didn't look very good against Tennessee. Dabo's gotta turn it around somehow, and I think they do it here.
I'm going to pick Wisconsin for the previous game, and I'm going to pick Dabo. Virginia Tech at who is that? WOF.
Wofford, yeah. I'm gonna say Virginia Tech rallies behind an interim head coach.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wofford's also terrible. So
this is such a weird one to pick because you don't even, they're in the interim head coach, but it's also 0-3 Wofford. I don't think, anyone's really hyped up to see Wofford play. So I'll agree with Ali here. I think Virginia Tech gets it done, even though they're in a really odd spot right now.
I'm going to go Virginia Tech too. SMU versus TCU. That's an early good game.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to go SMU.
I've been very vocal with my Josh Hoover love. I think Josh Hoover is one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. I like SMU, but I think TCU gets it done here. Shout out Josh Hoover. I'm going the Horned Frogs.
I've always liked SMU. I'm going SMU. Bowling Green versus Louisville.
Well, I think Bowling Green ended up being such a disappointment at the beginning of this season. So I find it very difficult to pick them. I can't. After that performance against USF, wait, that was Boise State, not Bowling Green. Never mind. Wait. Let me recircle this. Okay, I was picturing.
Yeah, you can recircle. No problem.
We'll come back.
What's the line on it? Tell me the line on it.
Hold on. Let me look for it then.
If I was guessing, I think Louisville like minus 25, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I'm looking for it now.
But this is just to win, not to cover, right?
Not to cover.
just to win.
We'll do coverage next year, but not now. It's even harder to cover.
I just need to know the line because I was picturing Boise State the entire time I was thinking about it.
Okay. Louisville given 26.5.
Whew. Okay, so Louisville.
Yeah,
so I still can't pick Bowling Green.
I'm going Louisville here too. I think they've been kind of disappointing with Miller Moss. I thought, people thought they were going to be an ACC sleeper. They haven't really looked like it. But that being said, I think they get it done here.
I'm doing Louisville. I don't think Bowling Green stands a chance. You know how the next one you're going to love because I always call him the crybaby. Crybaby Dan Mullen versus Miami of Ohio.
Give me UNLV.
Yeah, this line is crazy. Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe UNLV is only like a minus 1.5.
2.5.
2.5. That's crazy to me. UNLV has looked really good. Anthony Calandria, I always struggle with his name on this show. Anthony Calandria is a really good quarterback. Give me UNLV here by a lot.
I'm going to go with UNLV, but I wouldn't be surprised if it could go either way because of the fact how they played against Idaho State week 0.
Yeah, that's very true.
University of North Texas at Army.
Oh my God, I don't know enough about either team to pick that. Give me Army out of patriotism.
Okay.
Yeah, I wish I could do that too, but we saw Army. I believe it wasn't week 0, week 1. They lost to Tarleton State. They bounced back though. They beat I forgot who they beat last week, but they beat someone pretty good last week. That being said, North Texas just dominated Washington State. I think it was like 45-10 or something. That was a crazy game. So give me North Texas here. They're 3-0. I like them going 4-0 here.
This one's tough for me because of I'm going to go Army.
All right.
Love it.
South Carolina State versus our hated rival now because they beat us, USF.
Give me USF.
Yeah, this one's pretty easy. Give me USF. And Billy Napier better hope that USF wins this game.
For real.
I'm taking USF also. University of Alabama Birmingham versus Tennessee.
Oh, Tennessee.
There's no brainer, yeah?
Yeah, this one's Tennessee. Pretty simple.
Tennessee. WAG versus Central Michigan.
Wait, who did you say? Who's the first team?
WAG.
Wagner.
Oh, Wagner. Okay.
Yeah.
Central Michigan.
Yeah, I'm going Central Michigan too. They've looked solid this year.
Central Michigan also. Oregon State versus Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah, this one's pretty easy. Oregon State's looked miserable. Oregon's looked
they haven't looked like what we're used to.
Yeah, I'll go Oregon.
Oregon myself. Kent versus Florida State.
Florida State, big.
Yeah, I wish I didn't have to say this, but Florida State big.
I agree with you guys. Florida State big. Number 22, Auburn versus number 11, Oklahoma.
So this is an interesting one because I think I've been calling it the Jackson Arnold Bowl. I think that Jackson Arnold has looked 10 times the player at Auburn that he looked at Oklahoma. And I think this one will actually be pretty close, but I think Oklahoma pulls it out.
Yeah, this one's tough. I've mentioned it the last couple of weeks. Auburn is so tough for me because I entered the year thinking Jackson Arnold was not very good.
Yeah.
And like Ali said, he's been good. He's been looking good. I'm still undecided right now. I need to see more. I think this game will show me a lot of what I need to see. That being said, John Mateer is a really fun player. I love what he's doing. Deion Burks is a really good wide receiver. So give me Oklahoma here.
I'm going Oklahoma too. Number 21, Michigan versus at Nebraska.
So Michigan at Nebraska. Give me Michigan.
This is my upset pick. I love to do a couple upsets. I'm going Nebraska here.
Okay.
I love Bryce Underwood. I love me some Michigan. I just don't think they're as good as necessarily, they started off the year. And, Nebraska, they got a good coach. Dylan Raiola hasn't necessarily impressed me, but they can be sneaky good. I'm taking Nebraska here.
Since you're ahead of me, I'm going to do Michigan. I was going to do Nebraska if you would flip, but I'm going to do Michigan.
That's smart, Carlos. That's smart.
Exactly. Purdue at number 24, and if they lose here, they'll be out of the rankings. Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame.
Yeah, I don't think they lose here. I'd love to see them be out of the rankings just because an 0 team. Yeah, but I don't think Purdue has it in them. Give me Notre Dame.
I'm doing Notre Dame too. Belichick and the Tar Heels at USF.
At USF. I thought we picked USF earlier.
No,
UCF.
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 Wrong school.
Okay. Give me North Carolina.
Yeah, I was surprised by this line too. I think UCF is projected, Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong, 7.5?
I'll check it right now.
I know for a fact that UCF is favored.
UCF is giving 7.5.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy to me. I'm going North Carolina here on the upset. I don't think UCF has looked good at all, and North Carolina kind of got their butt whooped a couple weeks ago against TCU. I still like North Carolina here.
Ball State. I'm doing Belichick, even though I can't stand them because I'm a Dolphins fan. Ball State at UConn.
Give me UConn.
Carlos, you can. I mean, my big call last week was New Hampshire. I watched that whole game. Devastating. Ball State got it done against New
Yes.
Hampshire.
I
I
know
was
that.
heartbroken. It came down to the wire. I thought
Yeah,
New
I
Hampshire
know.
had
It was close.
but devastating. I think, I want UConn to win by 50 just because of the pain they put me through. So give me UConn here.
I'm going. This one. I'm going to go UConn just to match you on this one. JMU versus Liberty. James Bennett.
Liberty. I love Liberty. I think they're such a fun team to watch. I've enjoyed them the last few years. Let's go Liberty.
Yeah, these are two really fun teams. They always feel like they're kind of super good, but you're never really watching them. I'm going JMU here just because they kept it close with Louisville. I think their quarterback's a pretty fun watch, so I'll go JMU here.
I'm going Liberty. I have to try to catch up to you, Dylan. The Raging Cage, University of Louisiana versus Eastern Michigan.
Louisiana has not been great, and I'm kind of hoping they'll have a head coaching opening. So give me Eastern Michigan.
Yeah, I agree that I think there's a perfect coach heading his way to Louisiana.
Yeah.
That being said, Eastern Michigan, I called it 2 weeks ago. That was my claim to fame on this show. Is I called LIU, Long Island, getting the dub, and they beat Eastern Michigan. That was a fun watch. So give me Louisiana here. I don't think Eastern Michigan's very good.
I'm going to Louisiana, and I think you guys gave a subtle jab to somebody. I wonder who. Troy at Buffalo.
This one was really hard for me to pick. I picked Buffalo at first because I like what Buffalo's been doing this year, but then I thought about it. And Troy, they looked competent against Clemson. They had Clemson on the ropes. I think they've looked pretty solid this year, even though Buffalo's been the better team on paper. So give me Troy here and a little bit of an upset.
I'm gonna go Troy. Because that one I think is gonna be close. Toledo at WMU, Western Michigan.
Give me Toledo. I like their wide receivers coach.
Yeah, I agree. Toledo's got a lot of talent. I forgot. I couldn't remember his name last show, and now I'm blanking on it again. So I'm not even going to try at this point. But their quarterback's, he's been solid. He almost beat Kentucky, so give me Toledo here.
I'm going Toledo also. G-Web at Ohio.
Give me Ohio.
Yeah, I love Ohio. We've talked about them before. Parker Navarro is a baller, so give me Ohio here.
North Carolina State. I'm doing Ohio myself. North Carolina State at Duke.
Give me NC State.
This is going to be an incredible game. I'm excited for this game. I'll probably be watching this one. I'm a big Duke guy. I was pretty disappointed in how they've looked so far. That being said, I think they're the better team, so give me Duke here.
This is going to be close. I think let me see the spread. Hold on. Duke only given 2.5.
It's going to be close. It's a good game.
Yeah.
Give me North Carolina State. NIU versus Mississippi State.
Mississippi State.
Yeah, I agree here. Mississippi State, shout out to them. They turned the season around. They turned their program around a little bit. So I'll take them.
Mississippi State for me too. Temple at Georgia Tech. Number 18, Georgia Tech.
Wait, say that again?
Number 18, Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Georgia Tech. Give me Georgia Tech.
Yeah, Georgia Tech looks so good. I mean, after they disappointed me against Colorado, I made that whole spiel about how they're going to destroy Colorado, and then it was a close game. They come back and they look good, so give me Georgia Tech here.
I'm doing Georgia Tech too. I don't expect anything.
But no one give me Brent Key. I don't need a repeat of the last 4 years. I'm good.
Believe it or not, I've seen him on the list on TikTok. People like him.
I think he's an improvement, but I think we're going to be in a lot of really.
Yeah, I don't want him. I'm not saying I don't want him either. He can stay at Georgia Tech.
I don't want to see DJ Lagway. I don't want to see DJ Lagway running the ball in that offense. That's scary.
Idaho versus San Jose State University.
Give me San Jose State.
This one was kind of ugly one to pick. I didn't really think either of these teams were really impressive. I think San Jose State's projected to win. I think they're favored, but I'll take Idaho here just because they kept it close in a couple games early on in the season.
I'll tell you right now. Give me 1 second. Let me see Yeah, they're projected to win. Not by much, but they're projected to win.
Yeah, it's gonna be a close one. I'm not watching it though.
West Virginia at the Jayhawks.
That's an interesting one. I guess Kansas. Give me Kansas.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Kansas too. That rivalry game last week, West Virginia's coming off of was, a thriller. So I think Kansas is the better team, and they get them, a depleted team after that crazy game. So give me Kansas here.
I'm doing San Jose State, and I'm doing the Jayhawks. Delaware at FIU.
I have known nothing about either one of these teams. Let's go Delaware.
We talked about it with Tyler, Carlos. I love me some FIU. They've looked really good this year. I think FIU gets it done, and I think they cover. I think it's a close spread. I think they kind of get this one done by 10+.
I'm picking FIU. Arkansas State at Ken.
At where?
Ken.
Okay. I guess Arkansas State. This is another one where I'm literally just
there's the smaller schools. Don't get me wrong. I get stuck with the smaller schools too.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think Arkansas State. I haven't really paid attention to them much, but I'll take Arkansas State here.
DUQ versus AKR.
Duquesne versus AKR.
I was going to say Duquesne versus AKR.
See, I when they're small, the call letters are like, what the heck?
Akron, not Akron. I said.
Oh, it's Akron. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, Akron versus Duquesne. Let's go Akron.
Yeah, we laughed about them last week because I think through 2 weeks they didn't score a single point. They lost both games and got shut out. But then they come out and they look good. They almost beat Trent Dilfer's squad. I forgot what their team is. But they put up 28 points. So give me Akron here. It feels gross because they're 0-3 and they've only scored 28 points on the year, but I still like them.
I'm doing Akron myself here, and the next game I think is going to be a little bit tough for you, Dylan, but because you like a quarterback in this next game. I'm not going to say who, but you'll find out when I say the name of the school. South Carolina at number 23, Mizzou.
Yes, sir.
So I think Missouri. I think that Missouri is a pretty tough team, and obviously South Carolina losing their starting quarterback doesn't help.
Yeah, I think personally I would have picked Missouri anyways if Sellers was playing. I actually saw. I'm not sure. I didn't really look too much.
Oh yeah, he's hurt. I forgot that.
Yeah.
I saw something that said that he they might try to push him out there. I don't know how much that is true.
I think it just depends on how he does in the last days of concussion protocol.
But,
I don't know.
That being said, I don't think South Carolina was ever really impressive. I did my rant about that a while ago. Give me Missouri here.
I'm doing Mizzou too. This one's another one I don't recognize. MUR versus JVST.
MUR versus what?
JVST.
Oh, I know Jack State.
Jacksonville State, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know
Murray,
the other one.
Maybe it may be Murray or Murray
Murray,
State.
yeah.
Either Murray or Murray State, but
Shout out Florida. We'll go with Jacksonville State.
I agree. I think Jacksonville State gets it done pretty
I'll
easily.
stick with you guys because I don't follow those two schools. I'm doing Jacksonville State, sorry. And my phone shut off for a second, so give me 1 second. Marshall versus MTSU, Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah, Middle Tennessee State. Give me Marshall. Is Doc Holliday still the head coach over there?
I have no clue on that one.
Yeah. Could not tell you.
We're aging ourselves.
They did play Georgia. I could tell you that. Week 1, they played Georgia. That's all I remember with Marshall. That being said, I'll go Marshall too, just because they've looked all right this year.
I'm doing Marshall. UTM versus MOST. I forget who MOST is.
I know one's Missouri State.
Or is it Missouri State?
I think Missouri State.
I think it's Missouri State, but the UTM, I don't know who that is.
No idea.
Remember.
Let's go with Missouri State because that's the only one that we can actually identify.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Missouri State. I have them written down, so I at least know one of the teams in this.
There you go.
I'm doing Missouri State because that's the only one I kind of recognize it, but I was confused for a little bit. Nevada versus Western Kentucky.
Let's go Western Kentucky.
I agree. Maverick McIver, I'm a stan. I'm a fan of his. He's a baller. Nevada had some weird. They lost to who was it that they lost to? They lost a weird game last week where they didn't allow them to score until like 6 minutes left, and then they lost the game 14-12 or something. So I think Western Kentucky gets it done.
I'm doing Western Kentucky also. Boise versus Air Force, or at Air Force. Sorry.
Let's go Boise.
I agree. I not to disrespect the troops again. I know I didn't pick Army. I'm not going to pick Air Force, but I'll take Boise State here. I'm
picking Boise too. And I'm taking Western Kentucky for the other one because I forgot to pick him. And I give credit to Tyler for this one because now I recognize him. Maine at Georgia Southern.
I'll take Georgia Southern.
I agree. I'm not touching my up north teams anymore after North. I'm avoiding Maine here. I'll go Georgia Southern.
Georgia Southern for V2. CCU versus USA.
I think Colorado versus South Alabama, or no?
That's what it sounds like to me, but I'm not 100% sure.
I believe.
Remember, the call letters are, after they get small, it's like the call letters.
All right, so you said Colorado?
I believe Colorado State. Sorry, not Colorado.
Colorado State.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go Colorado State.
Okay.
I'm going to go South Alabama. They've actually looked really good this year out of nowhere. I think they kept it close with Auburn a week ago, maybe. So give me South Alabama.
I'm doing South Alabama also. The next one I'm going to skip because we're going to leave that one for last. You can imagine what it is. Illinois at Indiana. They're both ranked. Illinois number 9, Indiana 19.
Let's go Illinois.
This one was really hard because they're both ranked. I kind of feel like they're both a little overrated, in my opinion.
But they play in a conference that allows that to be, so.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, don't bring that up with Signetti. He'll get mad at you. But anyways, I think Illinois gets it done, even though I think both are kind of overrated. I'll go with Illinois.
Georgia State at Vandy.
Vandy. Give me Vandy.
My guys, Vandy's in for another magical season. Give me Vandy here. They might be in for a college football playoff run if they keep it up.
For the other one, which I didn't add it, I'm going to pick Indiana and give me Vandy for that one. Washington at Washington State.
Give me Washington.
I agree here. I mean, I've been pounding the table for Zevi Akias to start at Washington State. They start getting blown out by North Texas, down like 45 at half. They finally put him in, and he looks pretty good. So we'll see if he starts here. But Washington's super talented. Give me Washington here.
I want Washington too. I don't think if they would have had the quarterback you suggested at the beginning of the year, I would flip it. But he's not there. He's not starting. So give me a Washington. And I know which one I'm going to pick on this one already because they've already broken my heart once. Stanford at Virginia.
God, give me Virginia.
I agree here. I probably will never pick Stanford this season. Who knows? That might change.
Once, and
but
they killed me.
Give me Virginia.
Give me Virginia. Arizona State at Baylor.
This is an interesting one. Give me Baylor.
Like you said, this is a really tough one in my opinion. I mean, I kind of refuse to believe that Arizona State is as bad as they looked against Mississippi State. I want them to be good. That being said, I like Baylor too much. I think Baylor's too talented. I think Baylor wins.
Give me Baylor too, even though they burned me week 0 or week 1. I forgot which one. BYU at ECU.
Give me BYU.
I agree. I was tempted to take Eastern Carolina just because BYU hasn't been tested much yet. And I think, they lost their quarterback, Jake Retzloff, and now they have a freshman starting. I don't think they really wanted him to start. That being said, I don't think, this is the game where they get tested. I think BYU wins.
I want BYU. Then you have La Tech USM at La Tech.
I thought we already picked USM.
Southern
USM? No.
Oh, Southern Miss.
Yeah, Southern Miss.
At La Tech. Okay. Give me La Tech.
This was a tough one because La Tech kept it close against LSU.
Yeah.
But I'm a big Southern Miss guy this year. They've done me right so far, so give me Southern Miss again.
I'm gonna have to flip it for you because I need to catch up to you. Give me La Tech. I'm just gonna tell you guys the next one is LSU because they play a cupcake. It's Sella versus at LSU.
Yep, LSU.
Yeah, LSU.
SHSU at Texas. That's
Texas.
a cupcake.
Yeah, that's a no.
Yeah, I think Texas. No brainer.
Texas for all of you guys. MCN versus USU.
Say that again.
MCN at USU.
I know it's Utah State. I'm not sure about the other one.
Utah State, but I'm not sure about the other one either.
So I guess give me Utah State.
Yeah, I'm taking Utah State here. They've looked pretty good this year.
Nicholas at Texas State.
Texas State. It's Nichols, right? Nichols
Oh,
State.
Nichols, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, Nichols. Yeah, I'm going Texas State too. They kind of are that team that's kind of impressive, but also have had a tough schedule. I think they get it done here.
So give me Texas, give me Utah State, and give me Texas State. Louisiana Monroe at UTEP.
UTEP.
I agree. UTEP here.
I'll stick with UTEP too. UTSA at Colorado State.
Oh, this is Colorado State.
Yeah. The other one was CCU.
CC.
Coastal. That was
Coastal Carolina.
Coastal Carolina.
Okay, give me Colorado State.
You want to do the Coastal Carolina game again or no?
No, I'll stick with it.
Okay.
I'm actually going to go UTSA here. I think Colorado State has they still have that quarterback that it was pretty good, but UTSA has looked solid this year. They've kept it close with Texas A&M. I'll go UTSA.
I'm going to do Colorado State because I got to catch up to you. So I got to flip some of them even though I think the other team's going to win. Wyoming at primetime.
Colorado.
I agree. Colorado has so much to prove after that Houston game. That was ugly. So I think Colorado gets it done. We'll see who's starting at quarterback. I don't know what they're doing. I think Salters should be starting, but we'll see.
I'm going to go Colorado. Cal at San Diego State University. I got her thinking now.
I know. I'm like, I don't know. Dylan, you go. To convince me one way or the other here. I don't know about this.
I'll sell you because Cal has a freshman quarterback who is phenomenal. He's one of the best freshman quarterbacks in the nation. I have people telling me that Cal might go undefeated. I don't think so. I was arguing back and forth there. But I think Cal, gets it done pretty easily.
Okay, I'll side with Cal, which I cannot believe. I don't know that I've ever picked Cal in anything ever. So
I'm doing Cal just because I need to stay close to him, but I can maybe see the upset. Michigan State at USC.
This one's gonna hurt because I really want to pick Aiden Childs and Michigan State, but I don't think they're that good. Yeah. I don't think they're good enough this year. So give me USC.
Give me USC, and I don't know which one you're going to pick on this one, but I think I have a hint you're going to pick the second team. Fresno at Hawaii.
I'll go with Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm too obvious. I'm too easy to read. I love Hawaii. I'm actually there. I think they're plus 100, and I'm not going to give anyone betting advice, but Micah Alejado, their quarterback, is back after being out for 4 weeks, and when they played Stanford, he was phenomenal. So, do it with that information what you will, but I think Hawaii gets it done.
Give me Hawaii because I'm trying to stay close to Dylan. And guys, now I want 5 keys to the game. I know we might end up picking against our alma mater, but 5 keys to the game as to what do the Gators have to do to win the game, and give me a final score. And is Billy Napier gone?
Okay. All in one answer here?
Take your time. You can break it down.
So my 5 keys to the game, DJ Lagway's got to play better. He's got to see down the field. He's got to set his feet. He's got to make the right reads. I need special teams to be a weapon, not a liability. I want to see a punt or kickoff return for a touchdown. If Florida were to figure out a way to make special teams a weapon, I think that could go a long way here. I want to see how Florida holds up against Miami's trenches. I think if Florida's offensive line can give time to establish the run, allow our wide receivers to create some separation, good things can happen. I want to see us play mistake-free or as close to mistake-free football as possible. We know it's possible. We watched it against LIU, which I thought was such a feat because they subbed so many people in and out. I mean, we had third and fourth string guys that'll never see the field the rest of the year playing, and there still was not a single penalty. It is possible, but our most penalties are being committed by our veteran offensive line, and they're all procedural. They've got to nip that in the bud. And then, let me see. Florida's got to get to Carson Beck. I need him to disrupt him, and I need him to get him on his back. So if Florida gets 2 sacks, I think they can win this game. All of that being said, I predict Miami will win this game. My score prediction is 21-10. I think this defense is really good, and so I think they slow down this offense some. I just find it hard to believe that the offense does a 180 from last week to this week, even though I would love to be wrong. And I don't think Billy Napier gets fired after this one. I think if we had looked at this over the summer, like in July, I predicted Florida was going to be 9-3. And I thought those 3 losses would come between either LSU, Miami, Texas, and Georgia. Like some combination of those would be our 3 losses. So I think if we thought that, knowing that thinking this team was great, and we thought there was still a possibility they would lose to this Miami team, I don't think you fire him after a game you thought there was a great chance you were going to lose, even if you were the team you thought that you were going to be. I think the earliest he gets fired is after Texas A&M, and that would take Florida losing to Miami, Texas, and Texas A&M.
Yeah, I agree. My 5 takeaways, I'm going to start right where Ali left off. I think make Carson Beck uncomfortable. I think that's, in the Georgia game, we were really close in that game because we made him so uncomfortable. He was turning over the ball a bunch. Miami's O-line is so good, and our D-line has not been very good, stat-wise. Yeah, I think we've had a great defense, but, on paper, we haven't done too much. So we really need to get pressure. That's number 1. I think for any chance to even keep this close, you need to make Carson Beck uncomfortable because if he's sitting back there in the pocket, he's going to eat you alive. He'll find an open wide receiver. I think number 2 is, pretty obvious, DJ Lagway. He needs to look good. He needs to look like himself last year. I think, it's going to be interesting to see how we get him comfortable. And that really comes down to, can we stop Miami from just sitting on the short stuff like LSU did? I feel like LSU kind of said, we'll give you, the short stuff, and we don't think you're going to beat us over top. And, it ended up working out in a way, So we'll see with that. I think number 3, we talked about it earlier in the show, get your wide receivers more involved. I need to see more from J-Mike. I think that J-Mike is talented enough to not be just a guy out there running routes for no reason. I think Eugene Wilson needs to get the ball more. We saw it a little. USF, he was tearing it up. I wrote something. I found a stat. I think it was his longest yards per target or in, a while. I think his second longest of his career. So we need to see more of that. We need to see him downfield. And obviously, Vernell Brown's just phenomenal. Number 4, I would just say, finding a way to make Jaden Ball's life easier. We talked about that too. I think, you get him the ball. I think Florida plans to get him the ball, but make it easier on him so it's not like he has to play hero ball to get 10 yards. I think that's big on our O-line is just, being able to hold up against Miami's D-line, who is very talented as well. And I think number 5 is just not letting the moment get too big for them. You're going into Miami where, there's a lot you can say about Miami fans. I will refrain from sharing my thoughts on Miami fans, but you're going to be in a stadium filled with them. We've seen it 2 games in a row. First it's Brendan Betts spits on someone. Then it's our coach slaps someone. So I think you need to control your emotions in a game where you're going to be getting, some rowdy fans. Yeah, it's probably going to be worse. So that would be my 5th. And probably, one of the more important ones. You can't play sloppy football like Ali said, and that's a part of it. For score prediction, this pains the hell out of me, but I got to pick Miami here. I know I said last week, I'm sticking with my Gators.
I thought he was going to be a Disney Gator.
I want to so bad, Carlos, but I just can't. I'm going Miami here. I think I'll end up going 21-17. I mean, I think it's a close game. I think Florida's defense, like Ali mentioned, they're a really good defense. And I think, if some things go right, we could flip that. I think Florida can win this game. I'm not going to pick it. And then on Billy Napier being fired, the only reason I can see it is because then we head into the bye week with, a chance for our interim coach to take over and, work with the team and kind of get them ready for the future. I think, a lot of Ali's points were very valid. You expected them to lose 2 games already at this point. You expected LSU to be very difficult to win, and you expected Miami to be very difficult to win. So I think they have reason to not fire him. But at the same time, I think he's kind of a dead man walking in a way if he loses this game bad. So I don't know if they wait on that, considering you can get your interim head coach in there and, give him a whole 2 weeks to get ready for Texas. So I'm not going to say that he's fired unless it's a blowout. It's a huge blowout, but I could see it happening.
I agree with you guys. I hope that a VB3 gets a kickoff return and a punt return or either or. And I hope we can see DJ Lagway. You guys are not going to like my final score. Miami 35, our Gators 17.
Oof. Better than last night. It's an improvement.
Oh, Lord.
So
I can't take any moral victories.
where can they find you, Ali? And I would like to have you back on the show anytime.
Absolutely. You can find me on X at Ali_peak, and you can find me on YouTube at A Peek Inside Florida Gator Football.
And where can they find your work, buddy?
Yeah, you guys can find me at Florida Gators on SI. Go check out everyone's work. But
It's down there.
Yeah, down there. My Twitter is around here somewhere, Dylan_UF. And again, Carlos, I appreciate you. Ali, I appreciate you for coming on the show. And let's go Gators. Still go Gators.
Ali, I'm gonna message you on X my phone number so you can have it. Okay.
All right, sounds like a plan.
All right, guys. Like always, stay positive, stay on your grind, and go Gators. Peace.
Go Gators.